I'm going to tell you two stories from China today. And the first one is called The Peacock's Tail. A long time ago in China, animals could talk just like people do today. And one of the immortals that lived in heaven looked down upon the earth, and he decided to make the animals happier by making them more beautiful. So he came down to earth and he spoke to the animals. Which one of you would like to be made more beautiful? But none of the animals answered him. So he went to the monkey and he said, many people laugh at you. Do you not wish to be made more beautiful? But the monkey was very angry when he heard that. He said, I have nimble feet, just like my hands, and I have a long tail that helps me swing from tree to tree. I do not need to be made more beautiful. But over there, and he pointed to the horse, he needs your help. He has an ugly body, an ugly face, and a bushy tail that he swings back and forth for no reason. Help him. Well, the horse didn't like that at all, and he gave the monkey a few kicks. He said, I think I have a very nice face, and I use my tail to whisk away the flies. I do not need to be made more beautiful. But over there, the elephant, he needs your help. He's got a big fat body, fat clumsy legs, a ridiculous looking nose, and a silly looking tail. He needs your help. Well, the elephant didn't like that either, and he sprayed all the animals with water, and he stomped in the mud and splashed them. My strength is my beauty, said the elephant. But the peacock over there in the tree, he needs your help. He has a face like a tea kettle. His wings are black and blue like a rotten crow. And he has a short, ugly tail. Make him more beautiful. So the immortal went to the peacock and he said, do you wish to be made more beautiful? And the peacock answered, it is true. I do not have the tail of a monkey, or the face of a horse, or the strength of an elephant. And my tail is very short and ugly. I would love to be made more beautiful. This is what the immortal was waiting for. I will give you a tail that will be the most beautiful tail in the world. It will be beautiful enough for you to live in the jade palace of the emperor. Your feathers will shine like jewels in the sun. And at the very top, there will be a dark circle as beautiful as the eyes of a princess. And so he plucked out the tiny little feathers of the peacock, and he put in long, beautiful feathers. And he left to return to heaven. And the peacock flew into the tree, and he opened up his tail. And his feathers truly shone like jewels in the sun. And all the other animals were secretly envious of the peacock's tail, which he had gotten because of his modesty. And that's the end of our first story. And now I'm going to pull up the chair and tell you another Chinese story. Now, this story has some riddles in it, and I'm going to need your help to solve the riddles. Good. The name of this story is called Paper Flower. A long time ago in China, there was a large family. They had many, many children. And unfortunately, they did not have much money to feed the children. So the eldest daughter, whose name was Peach Blossom, said to her father, "I will go into the city. I will look for work, and I will not be a burden to you." The father agreed to let her go to the city, but he made her promise to come back in a year to visit him. And so Peach Blossom went into the city and started looking for work. It wasn't very easy finding work, but finally she found a family that would take her in. Now this family had the most horribly spoiled children. Why, they didn't do anything at home. They didn't make their beds. Do you make your beds?
Yes.
Of course you do. They wouldn't help their mother wash dishes. Do you help your mother wash dishes? Of course. You're not spoiled, right? Well, they wouldn't do anything. She had to do all the work. And she didn't mind doing that. But she did mind when one day they came to her and said, Peach Blossom, that's such an pretty name. You're much too ugly to have a name like that. You should be called something like Mud Pig. And that was her new name, Mud Pig. And it was Mud Pig, pick up my clothes, Mud Pig, wash the dishes. She didn't like that at all. Well, the year passed very quickly, and she was ready to go home when the mother of the family said, "You cannot go home. We need your help. It's holiday time." And this made Peach Blossom very sad. So the mother, who could be very tricky, said, "I will let you go home if you solve 3 riddles for me. First, I want you to bring me fire wrapped in paper. Second, I want you to bring me water wrapped in paper. And third, I want you to bring me wind wrapped in paper. If you can do those 3 things, then you can go home." Well, Peach Blossom didn't know how to do those things, but she started thinking about the time when she was little. She used to take paper and cut it and make toys. And she thought, maybe if I take a piece of paper and cut it, I can solve the first riddle, which was fire wrapped in paper. So she started cutting. While I'm doing that, can anyone think of how to wrap fire in paper? Yes? Yes?
Or you could take a candle and,
Uh-huh.
wrap it around in paper.
Well, the paper might burn, though. It can't burn. Okay? Yes?
A lantern made out of paper?
Ooh, maybe that's the answer. Yes? Uh-huh.
Maybe you could use red paper and,
Okay, let me show you. The second little girl guessed it. A lantern. Right. You put a candle in there, and it won't burn, especially if you hold it carefully. The first riddle. The second riddle was water wrapped in paper. Any ideas how to wrap water in paper? Yes?
you could maybe have a glass and cover it with saran wrap and
here's another one. What do we have here?
A paper
A
cup.
paper cup, right. That's right. Water wrapped in paper. Now, the last riddle was wind wrapped in paper. That's an easy one.
Fan.
Yeah, maybe. Let's see. Let me finish folding this. You're right. It was a fan. Well, Peach Blossom took these three things back to the mother, and she said, I have done what you wanted. I have wrapped fire in paper, and I have wrapped water in paper, and I have wrapped wind in paper. And the mother said, I see the fire, and I see the water, but I do not see the wind. So Peach Blossom stood up, and she showed her. You feel it?
Really good.
Feel it?
I can't. I can't. We can't.
So she knew that she had solved all the riddles, and she let her go home. Now, while Peach Blossom was at home, she started thinking, I do not want to go back and work for that family. They were so mean to me. I want to do something else. And she started thinking, and she said, I bet that they could use paper toys in that city. No one seems to have any paper toys there. What if I started making paper toys and selling them? Perhaps I could make lots of money. So she went back to the city and she started making paper toys. First, she sold them from a basket, and everyone bought them. Then she sold them from a pushcart, and more people bought them. And last, she opened up a little store and sold all her toys. She became very wealthy and very famous. And she thought, I am so famous and so rich. I don't think that I should be called Mud Pig. It doesn't seem like the right name for someone like me. So, since in China it is the custom to change your name to fit the person that you are, Mud Pig became Paper Flower.
That's pretty.
Thank you. You want it?
Thank you.
Well, thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed my two stories.
This is the story of Ashpaddle. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful and spirited princess. Many princes and noblemen came from all around, seeking her hand in marriage. But none of these suitors suited the princess, who had her own ideas about what kind of man she wanted for a husband. So her father, the king, sent out a proclamation that in 2 weeks' time, the princess would choose her own husband. But not just anybody need apply. The princess wanted a man who could think for himself and knew his own mind. In that country where there was a squire who had 2 sons. They were very intelligent, good-looking young men, thought well of by the whole countryside, including themselves. And when they heard about the princess's going to choose her own husband, they were very excited. And they went to get ready and to think of smart and witty things to say to impress the princess. They were sure they had a very good chance of being chosen. When the great day came, the 2 young men came out into the courtyard in front of their house where all the people of their household were gathered to wish them Godspeed. And they were all dressed up in brand new finery with ruffles and beautiful bright velvet pants and shiny black boots, which were all the style in those days. And their father brought out from the stable new horses, gorgeous horses, curried till their coats were shining. These 2 young men were just getting ready to get on their horses when their brother Ashpaddle came in. Now, I haven't told you about Ashpaddle yet. He was the 3rd brother, and he was very different from the other 2. Why, he was considered by everyone to be a fool and a simpleton, and he used to sit for hours by the fire, gazing into the flames and playing in the ashes with his hands and with a little stick. He got himself covered with ashes, his hands and his face and his clothes. And that is why he was called Ashpaddle. And nobody had even thought to tell Ashpaddle what was happening when he arrived and the brothers were ready to leave.
My brothers? Oh, where did you get those beautiful clothes?
Oh, well, they're wonderful, aren't they? Mother gave them to us.
You look magnificent.
Ah, yes, we do.
And those horses, where did you get those wonderful horses?
Well, Father got them for us.
Oh, where are you going?
Well, to the palace, of course.
The palace?
Yes.
Are you going to get a job?
A job, you fool! We're not going to get a job. The princess is choosing a husband today, and we hope that she will choose one of us. Don't you think we have a good chance?
Yes.
And so, the brothers got on their horses and rode off.
Bye, brothers.
Goodbye.
Father,
Yes, son.
where's my horse and where are my new clothes?
Oh, Ashpaddle, we didn't expect you to go to the palace.
But Father, I feel just like getting married today.
Oh.
Oh, it'd be wonderful.
Well, son, I don't think you're the princess's type. I wouldn't want your feelings to be hurt. You better come inside with me.
No, Father, I'm going to go. I want to win the hand of the princess, and if she'll have me, then she'll have me. And if she won't have me, well, of course she'll have me. Why not?
Well, son, I'm sorry, but we have no new clothes or new horse for you. You better come with me now.
I'm sorry, Father. No, I'll wear the clothes that I have then, and I'll get my billy goat and take him. He's taken me all over the countryside already.
All right, son, as you wish. And so Ashpaddle went and got his trusty billy goat.
Oh, what speed! Watch out, everybody! Move aside! It's Ashpaddle! Make way! Oh, brothers, look! I'm coming with you!
Oh, Ashpaddle, you're coming with us? Well, ride him back, please.
Okay.
And as they rode on, Ashpaddle saw something interesting and stopped.
Oh, look what I found. This is my lucky day. Going to marry the princess, and I find one of these. Oh, wait till I show my brothers. Oh, brothers, look! Oh, lads, I found something. I found something.
Well, what did you find, Ashpaddle?
Look, it's a crow.
Oh, it's dead! Yuck!
Oh, sorry.
Throw it away!
No, I'm going to give it to the princess.
Oh, how disgusting. Let's go.
I'm going to put it in my pouch. I'll carry it. Gee.
And the brothers rode on for a little while longer till Ashpaddle saw something else.
Oh, boy. things you find on the road some days. Oh. Oh, lads! Oh, lads! I found something! I found something!
What did you find now?
Look, it's part of a willow stick.
Oh, yes, it is a willow twig. What good is it? Throw it out.
I can wrap it around my hand. Look.
Yes? Oh, come on. Get rid of it. Let's get going.
No, I'll put it in my pouch. I'll take it.
And they rode on a little longer till Ashipattle stopped again.
Oh, boy. The things that people throw away. You just wouldn't believe what you find. It's brand new. It's never been used. Oh, lads. Oh, lads. I found something else.
Oh, what did you find this time?
Look, it's a brand new wooden wedge. That's
Yes?
never been used.
It is a wedge. That's true. What good is it? You can't win the princess with a wedge.
I might.
Oh, get rid of the silly thing.
No, I'll put it in my pouch. I'm going to carry it. Gosh.
Well, they kept on riding along, and Ashipattle was always looking around, and he saw something else.
I never would have thought to find one of these on the road. This is wonderful. I found a wooden shoe. Oh, lads! Oh, lads! I found something. I've really found something this time.
Well, you are everlastingly finding something.
Look, a wooden shoe.
A broken wooden shoe.
Only on the top.
Cracked all the way up the top.
It's
Just
good.
throw it away.
No, I'm going to take it. I'll carry my pouch. I'm going to give it to the princess.
Sure. Well, they kept riding along and they got closer and closer to the palace, and there was a long ditch by the side of the road with water in it.
This is just one of those days you wait for. People would ride along this road all the time and go right past here, but I'm not. This mud, you've seen mud, but you don't see mud like this very often. And this is that really good mud, just squishy. Boy, I'm gonna take it because you can't leave this kind of mud. I could ride for days and not find mud like this again. Some people go right by it. Oh, boy. You just can't waste stuff like this when you find it. Uh-oh. Okay. It's okay. Oh, lads! Oh, lads! I've really found something this time.
Heaven grant that you found some sense.
Not likely.
Except for
Look!
Oh, yuck! Don't get on me! And the brothers hit their horses and they galloped off because they did not want to arrive at the palace at the same time as that muddy fool. When they got to the palace, there were lots of people there trying to see what was going on, and they had to wait with a group of young men who were waiting to be interviewed by the princess. Finally, it was the turn of the eldest brother, and he walked into the room. It was the middle of summer. The princess was sitting on one side of the room. On the other side were some men writing everything down. Across the room was a judge. He was very stern and grumpy looking. And in the middle of the room was a great big wooden stove. And there was so much wood in it, the fire was burning till it was almost red hot. The eldest brother walked into the room. "Good day, princess." "Good day, young man." Oh, princess, it's so hot in here." "Well, that's because my father is roasting chickens today." No good. Out you go." And then was the turn of the second brother. And he came in and saw the same thing. He couldn't believe it either. "Good day, princess." "Good day, young man." "Oh, why is it so hot in here?" "Well, young man, my father is roasting chickens today." Your father? No good. Out you go." And then there was a commotion in the entryway, and the door burst open, and in came Ashipattle.
Good day, princess.
"Good day, young man."
Oh, it's nice and hot in here, isn't it?
"Well, yes, my father's roasting chickens today."
What luck! I have a crow. Could I roast my crow here?
"Oh, well, of course you could roast your crow, but we don't have a pan for you to roast it in."
Oh, I always roast mine in a wooden shoe, so I brought it with me. See?
Well, yes, but there's a crack up the shoe. I'm afraid it would sputter all over the inside of the stove.
Oh, but I have a willow branch here. You see, I just wrap it around. There.
I'm just not sure it's quite tight enough, are you?
Oh, that's why I brought a wooden wedge.
Oh, well, it fits
There,
very
isn't that nice?
nicely, but what would you do for drippings to baste it with?
Oh, I have some very good drippings here.
Oh, well,
Isn't that beautiful?
yes, you certainly have some unique ideas. Young man, do you see those men over there? They're writing down everything you say.
Why?
Well, they're going to publish it in the newspapers.
Really?
And do you see that judge over there, the one who looks so grumpy?
Uh-huh.
Yes, he looks so stern and sour-faced.
Why is he so
Do you have any idea?
serious?
Well, what could you do about that?
Oh, I know. We don't want anyone too grumpy and serious here. Let me share some of these special drippings with him.
He got a great big handful of mud, and he threw it right in the judge's face.
He's changed already! He's dancing!
He is! You are certainly a young man who can think for yourself.
Yes.
And I choose you to be my husband. And so, the princess and Ashpaddle were married. And in due time, Ashpaddle became the king. And he made some very unique decisions, but he was a good king. And they lived long and happily ever after.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Would you like to see a king like that sometime?
Who throws mud at people to cheer
When
them
they're too
up?
serious? Then we wouldn't have people frowning all the time, would we?
Yes, Jennifer.
I remember the question I was going to ask.
Oh, okay.
I don't have to do it, but in any of your shows, has anybody had to get up and go to the bathroom in the middle?
No, the stories aren't too long, so they can usually wait. You know, there are lots of stories about Ashpaddle. He does many different things. I've read a
Mhm.
story about how he goes and saves the town from a dragon.
Why don't you tell that one?
Well,
We're just telling one today.
sometime we can tell that one.
And they have different parts of the world made up different stories about Ashpaddle too, with different, slightly different names. And sometimes instead of being a boy, Ashpaddle became a girl. They have stories for both. And she'd
There's
become a princess.
That's right. And there's a girl called Cinderella, who also was covered with ashes.
Do you know those stories? I know you know that one.
Yeah,
You gotta know that one. Yes.
I have 3 Cinderella books.
3 of them.
Are they all just a little bit different? Different pictures? They're all the same?
Well, one book is
for you today is from Italy. It's called Lou Fish. Lou did not begin as a fish, of course. Lou began as an ordinary guy, such as yourselves. He is the kind of guy who, when he went to the ocean, had a real hard time getting out. Now, if you've been to the Oregon coast, at least I found, you put your toe in that water, and that's enough. You're cooled off. You don't need to get in. But if you lived in Sicily, where you put in your toe into the Mediterranean Sea, it feels so good when you get in that water, you never want to get out. Lou, every morning, the sun had come up, he hit the beach. Down the beach, running along, into the water, floating on the waves. They felt so good. It was like music. It was the most wonderful thing. And every day, Lou's mother, she'd be fixing his lunch. Lou would be out in the ocean somewhere. She'd have to tromp down from the house to the beach and call out, "Lou! Lou! Come in! Your meal is ready!" And for a long time, Lou would actually come in. But one day he decided he wasn't going to do it anymore. He was staying. So he called back and he said, "Mom, I don't need any food. This ocean is everything I need." His mother was not very pleased. She went back home. She came back around 7 o'clock in the evening and she said, "Lou! Lou! You've got some friends at the house. Would you come on in and spend some time?" Lou's floating on the water. He just said, "No, Mom. This ocean is all the friends I need. I think I'll stay." "Lou! You make me so crazy." She went back home. Eventually, of course, it got dark. Lou's mother tromped down to the beach one more time. "Lou! Lou! Come in, please. Look, there's stars in the sky and moon on the water. You've got to come home and sleep." Lou just laid back on the waves and he said, "No, Mom. This ocean is all the bed I need. I'm staying." "I can't believe you. A perfectly healthy boy, and look where you are, out on the waves. Well, I'm not going to stay here all night. Go ahead. Try it." Huh? She went home. Now, Lou was just floating around in the water all night. And by the time the sun came up, Lou had become a fish from here to here. His mother came down to the water, see if she could fish him on out that morning, and she saw he was kind of a merperson out there in the water, and she was a little disappointed about that. Lou was thrilled. He'd always wanted this to happen. This was perfect. Boy, the speeds you can go at if you're a fish. I'm telling you, you duck down under that water, you flip your tail, you're gone. He had a marvelous time. He was the best swimmer anywhere. And sooner or later, word gets around, you know. If there was somebody out in the North Pacific there with the tail of a fish and the body of a man, well, you know, you'd hear about it. And the king heard about Lou. Now, the king, he was a very curious guy, wanted information about everything, and he said, "Would you go find that Lou for me? I've got a few things I'd like him to find out, and I understand he's a good swimmer." So his couriers went out in boats and out to find Lou, and Lou came to the king, and the king said, "Lou, I'm very curious about the waters around Sicily. What's under the water? I want you to swim all around this island and tell me what is beneath the waves." Lou said, "I would love to do it. I'll see you soon." And he flipped his tail up in the water and himself down under the waves, splashed down. Under the waves, there were these mountains and valleys, whole beautiful beautiful rivers beneath the sea, and he followed those all around the island of Sicily. He was gone for 5 days, didn't come up once. Up and down and around, and finally back up to the king. And he said, "Oh, my king, you are the lord of the most beautiful undersea land in the world. Oh, the mountains, the valleys, and the fish down there. I was proud to be among them." The king said, "It's very interesting. Tell me, do you think you could get to the bottom of these volcanoes? I'm very curious about those." Lou thought about it. Now he knew that'd be a little bit deeper and a little bit longer, but he said, "For you, my king, I'll go." And he flipped up his tail and flipped under the waves, and down he went. Down and down and down, beneath the valleys, under a little ridge of rock, and under the island of Sicily, until he came to the base of the great mountains that were the volcanoes. And down there, under the water, there were rivers of molten rock sizzling through the ocean. It was the most amazing thing that he had ever seen. It was beautiful. He was gone for 5 months and never came up. Finally, he made his way back under the island, past the mountains, and up to the king. He said, "Oh, my king, this island beneath it has the most beautiful rivers of rock and fire. It's the most gorgeous sight. I don't know how I can possibly describe to you. It is so beautiful." And the king said, "This is a fine thing to know. I'm very proud of our island of Sicily. I have one more question for you, Lou. On what does Sicily stand? I'm worried about how our island will remain still in these rushing waters of the Mediterranean. Will you go down and find this for me? What is holding up Sicily?" And Lou knew that this would be a lot deeper than the valleys, and it would be a lot deeper than the volcanoes. And he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to do it at all. But it was the king asking him, and so he said, "My king, I love you and I love Sicily almost as much as I love the ocean, and so I'll go." He flipped his tail, and down once again, through the deep blues and greens of the water, and down the valleys, and under the rocks, and past the molten seething of the volcanoes. And down, down, down below there were 3 great stone columns. One of the columns was tumbled over. One of them was cracked. And one of them was leaning over to the side. And Lou was wondering what had happened to these great, strong columns, and he looked over the edge and down there was a fish that could fit the entire Sicilian navy in its mouth. It was an enormous fish, a great, huge, hulking bulk of fish under the entire island of Sicily. And as it swayed there in the water, under the columns, under the island of Sicily, of course, it rocked the island, and it rocked the columns back and forth and back and forth, and the stone couldn't give, so it broke. And Lou knew that the only thing that could hold up the island of Sicily would be something that could sway with the movements of that great fish. So he moved himself over to the pedestal of the column that had fallen, and he
slipped his tail against that stone and pushed his head up against the base of the island of Sicily, and he stayed there. And he was gone for weeks and months and years, and eventually Lou became a fish from here to here. And he moves slowly under the island of Sicily, and to this day, the king awaits the return of Lou Fish. And that's the story of Lou Fish. You ever wanted to be some other kind of creature than you are? I keep trying, you know, to stay like in the water long enough to turn into a fish, but it has never worked. You ever tried anything like that? When I was young, my friends told me that if I put rubber bands on my toes, they would grow together and become fins, which I tried for a long time. My toes got real dirty and stinky, but they did not turn into fins.
Hi, I'm Larry Watson, producer of Once Upon a Storyteller, and I am joined today in the studio with some expert authorities on storytelling. And I have a question for my experts here. If you wanted to learn a brand new story today, where are some places you might go to learn one? Let's start with you.
I'd go to a newspaper.
Ah, a newspaper.
How about school?
School is a good place to learn stories.
You could go to the library. You could watch television. On the radio. You could get it on a book.
Or in a book. Well, these are all excellent answers. And I'd like to mention one more place that we could learn a story, and that's right here on this channel. Watch for Once Upon a Storyteller.
Hi, I'm Maureen, and I have a special story to share with you today. But before I tell the story, I need to find out some information. I need to know, do all of you guys have belly buttons? You do have belly buttons. Okay, the next thing I need to know is, did you bring your belly buttons with you? Are you sure? They're not at home under your pillow? No. They're not in your toy box? No. Not in a plastic bag in the refrigerator? All right. Well then, this is a story about a belly button. Once upon a time, there was a little boy, and his name was Taro. And Taro had the roundest, most perfect, most beautiful belly button in the entire world. He did. And Taro's favorite thing when he went to bed at night was to admire his belly button as he fell asleep. And when it was time to go to bed, Taro's mom would help him wash his face and brush his teeth and put his jammies on. And she'd tuck him in bed, and she'd pull his jammy tops way, way, way down low. And she'd pull his covers way up high under his chin. And she'd kiss him goodnight and leave the room. And as soon as Taro's mom would leave the room, he would pull those covers down and pull those jammy tops up and look at his belly button. And Taro's mom told him, "Taro, leave your belly button covered." And Taro would say, "Oh," but every night, after his mom helped him wash his face and brush his teeth and put his jammies on, when she'd tuck him in bed with his jammy tops pulled down low and the covers pulled up high, she'd kiss him goodnight and leave. The first thing he would do, down came the covers and up came the jammy tops. And he would lay in bed admiring his belly button. And Taro's mom said, "You know, Taro, if you don't leave your belly button covered, some night the belly button monster is going to come along and steal it." You think there's any such thing as a belly button monster? No, Taro didn't think so either. And so every night he would lay in bed with his belly button uncovered, just admiring it. Well, one night Taro was in bed with his belly button uncovered, and the moon outside was big and bright and full in the sky. And a moonbeam came right down through Taro's window onto his belly button. It was just like a spotlight out of the sky. And Taro lay there looking at his belly button and admiring it and thinking how really, really lucky he was to have such a beautiful belly button. Well, just about midnight, down Taro's street came a red Toyota pickup truck. And in that red Toyota pickup truck was the belly button monster. And he was riding around looking for a belly button to steal. And as he drove down Taro's street, he saw Taro's tricycle on the front porch. And the belly button monster said, "You know, I bet a little kid lives in this house." And so he drove that red Toyota pickup truck across the sidewalk, up the front steps, across the porch, through the front door, through the living room, up the steps, down the hall, and right into Taro's bedroom. And he parked the red Toyota pickup truck beside Taro's bed. And he got out of the truck and went around to the back. And he got a huge white sack with his entire collection of 500 belly buttons in it. And he put the sack down beside Taro's bed. And he walked over and he looked at Taro, and there in the moonlight, the belly button monster saw the roundest, most perfect, most beautiful belly button that he had ever seen. And the belly button monster knew that he had to have that belly button for his collection. And so very, very carefully, he reached out and got that belly button and he put it in the sack. And he took the sack and he put it in the back of his truck. And then he hopped in his truck and he drove out Taro's bedroom, down the hall, down the steps, through the living room, out the front door, across the porch, down the sidewalk, and away down the street. Well, now the next morning, Taro woke up and, he yawned and he stretched. And he felt a little bit weird. He didn't know why, and he thought, well, today's Tuesday. Maybe I'm just having a Tuesday kind of feeling. And he thought he'd go downstairs and get himself some orange juice, because whenever Taro felt weird, orange juice always made him feel better. So he went downstairs and he poured a big, big glass of orange juice. And he started to drink it, and oh, it was so cold, and it was so good, and it was all over the floor. Because that orange juice had gone in Taro's mouth, down his throat, and right out the hole where his belly button used to be. Oh, Taro didn't know what he was going to do. But He was a tidy kind of kid, so the first thing he did was clean up the floor. Then he decided he better clean himself up, too. So he went upstairs and he filled the bathtub with water. And when the bathtub was all full, he climbed in, jammies and all. And he started to wash himself and wash his jammies, but ooh, the water felt so warm and so good. Taro just kind of leaned back in the tub to relax. And when he did, all the water from the tub went in the hole where Taro's belly button used to be, filled him up, and he blew up just like a balloon. Taro thought, I better go tell my mom about this. So he wrapped his arms around himself and squeezed all the water out. And he went downstairs to where his mom was, and he said, Mom. And his mother said, yes. And he said, I have something to tell you. And his mom said, yes. And he said, well, do you know when you told me about the belly button monster? And his mother said, mm-hmm. And he said, well, last night when I was asleep, somehow on accident, my covers got pulled down and my jammy tops got pulled up and the belly button monster came along in the middle of the night and he stole my belly button and now I don't know what to do because I can't drink anything and I can't take a bath and oh, I don't have a belly button. He was really upset. Well, Taro's mother was a really nice person. And so she did not say, I told you so. She did not. Instead, she said, well, Taro, you know, the belly button monster is very fair, and he's also very forgetful. And sometimes he comes back to a place where he's already been. And if he should come back here, all you need to do is say, I got you, and the belly button monster has to give your belly button back, because that's the rule. Well, that made Taro really happy because he knew he had a chance to get his belly button back. So that night, Taro was all ready for bed with his face washed and his teeth brushed and his jammies on. He laid in bed with the jammy tops pulled down and the covers pulled up. And he lay there all night long with one eye open, waiting for the belly button monster. But he didn't come. And the next night, Taro lay in bed with his belly button covered. And he stayed there all night long with the other eye open. And the belly button monster still didn't come. Well, on the third day, things were starting to get pretty bad. Taro was really, really thirsty because he couldn't drink anything. He was terribly dirty because he couldn't take a bath. And he was really tired because for 2 nights he'd had to sleep with one eye open. And when you sleep with one eye open, you only get a half a night's sleep. And that night, Taro was laying in bed. And, of course, he had his jammy tops down and his covers up. And he was waiting for the belly button monster. And he was getting so tired. And just as Taro was about to fall asleep, down the street came that red Toyota pickup truck. And in the red Toyota pickup truck was, who do you think? The belly button monster, that's right. And just like before, the belly button monster rode down the street and he saw Taro's tricycle parked on the front porch. And the belly button monster thought, I bet there's a belly button in that house for me to steal. So he drove that red Toyota pickup truck across the sidewalk, up the front steps, across the porch, through the front door, through the living room, up the steps, down the hall, and right into Taro's bedroom. The belly button monster parked that truck beside Taro's bed. And he got out and he went around to the back of the truck. And he got that big, huge white sack with his entire collection of 501 belly buttons. And he put the sack down on the floor beside Taro's bed. And just as the belly button monster was reaching out to pull those covers down, Taro sat up in bed and said, I got you. And the belly button monster said, pardon me. And Taro said, well, you've already been here and you already took my belly button. And my mother said that all I had to do was catch you if you came back and you would have to give me back my belly button because that's the rule. And the belly button monster said, well, it might be the rule, but I don't have to give your belly button back unless you can show me exactly which one is yours. And I have 501 of them in this sack, and I really don't think you're going to be able to pick yours out. And Taro said, oh, yes, I will, because my belly button is the roundest, most perfect, most beautiful belly button in the entire world. And Taro opened that sack, and he started to poke and dig and just look through all those belly buttons. Finally, in the very middle of the sack, he found his belly button. And he held it up and he said, here it is. This is mine. And the belly button monster said, oh, no. No, that's the prize belly button of my collection. I don't want you to take that one. Taro said, it's mine and I want it. And the belly button monster said, I'll tell you what. How about if we make a deal? How about if I keep that belly button and I give you 2 belly buttons in trade for it? And Taro said, no, I want mine. The belly button monster said, think about this. I will keep your belly button. I will give you 2 others and 5 Nintendo games. Oh, Taro really liked Nintendo, but he said, no, I want my belly button. The belly button monster said, you are a hard man to deal with. How about this? 2 belly buttons, 5 Nintendo games, and 11 Barbie dolls. Ooh, and Taro said, I hate Barbie dolls. The belly button monster said, you are picky. And he said, all right, listen to this. My last offer. I will give you 2 belly buttons, 5 Nintendo games, 11 Barbie dolls, whether you want them or not, and 1,723 double fudge chocolate chip cookies every Wednesday for the rest of your life. Ooh, Taro loved double fudge chocolate chip cookies. But he said, no, I want my belly button. And the belly button monster said, well, all right then, fine. And he took that belly button and put it right back where it belonged. And the belly button monster took his sack and got in his truck and he drove away. And you know, now when Taro wants to look at his belly button at night, he doesn't pull his covers down and his jammy tops up. He takes a flashlight, lifts the cover, and just kind of shines it down there so he can see his belly button. Taro's never seen the belly button monster again. And that's the end of that.
Today I'm going to be telling you two stories. The first one is from Yiddish. Yiddish is a language spoken in Middle Europe and in some Israeli homes and some Jewish homes here today. And this is called Meshka the Kvetch. Now, a kvetch is a complainer. Do you know anybody who complains about stuff in your house or at your school? Your friend Tiffany complains? Yeah? Who else? Who complains?
My friend James.
What does he complain about?
He complains because he wants to play with something that only has one marble.
Ah, that can be difficult. Okay, I want to teach you one other thing, because we're going to be doing this throughout the story. Take your hand by the side of your head and go, I say! Let's try one more time. I say! Now, I'm going to be calling on you to use that. Oy vey simply means, boy, oh boy, am I having a terrible day, and Meshka is about to. Now, once there was a woman named Meshka. She was the town kvetch. She complained about everything. Every morning she went shopping, and the first shop that she went to was the vegetable and produce store. And as soon as she got in the door, she started to complain, and she went, you ready? I My son sits every day in the same place on a stool reading books like he was a big spot on a kosher dill pickle. And everybody in the store covered their ears because they'd heard it all before. Then next, she went next door, and she went into the plant store. And as soon as she got in the door, she started to complain, and she went, My house is so small, I can barely fit my hands through the windows and my feet through the door. And everybody covered their ears because they heard it all before. Then she went next door to the haberdasher shop. You know what a haberdasher is? He's somebody who makes hats out of hammers. And so she went inside. As soon as she go in, she complains. You ready? She went, My daughter's such a busy woman. She doesn't phone me. She doesn't write me. Maybe once a month I see this girl. Anybody do that to their parents? Get so busy you don't see them? Well, anyway, the next morning, as she was making breakfast for her son and pouring the porridge into bowls, she felt an itch right on the tip of her tongue. She didn't know what it was, but she called out for her son to come to breakfast. He didn't answer. She called out again. He didn't answer. So, you know, Meshka, you got your hands ready? Come on. She went, My son doesn't come when I call him to breakfast. He is sitting reading books like he was Big Spot on kosher dill pickle. She went around the corner into her son's room, and there, instead of her son, was a giant kosher dill pickle with a green spot right in the middle. She got so scared she ran out into the kitchen. She fell down on her bottom. All the pots and pans hit her on the head. And as it was falling down, she went, you ready? My house is so small, I can barely fit my hands through the windows and my feet through the door. And as soon as she had said that, the house began to shrink until it was true. She could only put her hands through the windows and her feet through the door. As soon as she was able to wriggle free from that, she ran down the road to her daughter's house, and she knocked on her daughter's door. And her daughter answered, but just before she came to the door, you know, Meshka, you ready? She went, Cheryl, my daughter is home. She never calls or writes. She's such a busy girl. As her daughter looked out, she said, who are you, old lady? And she said, you don't know me? I'm your very own mama? She said, I've never seen you before in my life. And as soon as she slammed the door in her face, Meshka didn't know what to do. She ran down the road. She was so confused. And as she ran, her back started to hurt. And as it started to hurt, well, you know Meshka, she started to complain, and she went, my back feels like the wall of Jordan was on it. She shouldn't have said that. Soon as the words out of her mouth, she's got this big wall coming out of her back, made out of mortar and brick and stones. It's pushing her down. She's walking around like a little lady like this with this wall on her back. And as this is happening, her feet start to hurt. So she complains about her feet. You ready? She goes, my feet feel like there was 10-pound melons on them. As soon as the words were out of her mouth, there were 10-pound melons on her feet. And it's very difficult to walk with a wall on your back and melons on your feet. It's like roller skating on mush. Finally, she was pushed down to the ground. And while lying there, she looked up, and the rabbi was standing there. And he said, Mishka, how's by you? And she went, you ready? Ay vey! Rabbi, what a day I've been having. And he said, this morning, when you woke up, did you feel a little itch on the tip of your tongue? No. And she said, Rabbi, how did you know? He said, oh, I'm afraid to tell you this, but you have the kvetch's itch. And she said, the kvetch's itch? What's that? And he said, it means whatever you complain about comes true. She said, Rabbi, what can I do to change that? He said, now, I don't know this convey, but maybe you say good things, bad things you complain about. Hey, maybe that changed. So tell me a little bit about your son. And she went, you ready? Ay vey, my son. And then she stopped because she realized she no longer had a son. She had a huge kosher dill pickle sitting in her son's room. And so she said, my son is really a great student. He reads books every day, and we hope he is going to university very, very soon. And my house, built by my late husband, may he rest in peace, is much bigger and prettier than I remember. And my daughter, who is such a busy girl, I am lucky I see her once a month. And my back and my feet, for a woman my age, I'm in very good health. And as soon as she said that, the wall disappeared from her back and the melons from her feet. She ran back to her house, which was now bigger and prettier than she remembered. She ran into her son's room, and what do you think she saw?
Her son.
You're right. She saw her son, only had a little bit pickled juice around the elbows. She was so delighted that she ran down the road to her daughter's house, and she knocked on her door. And her daughter answered and said, Mama, I've just been thinking about you. I just put on a kettle of tea. Come on in. And they sat and they talked. And from that day forward, whenever Meshka started to kvetch or to complain, she remembered the day she had the kvetch's itch. And she stopped herself and she started to say good things. And as she said good things about her life just kept getting better and better and better. And that's the end of that story. Now, the second story is from Ireland. It's called Finn McCool, and it goes something just like this. A long time ago in Ireland, not only were there little leprechauns and dwarfs and fairies, there were giants. And the biggest and meanest giant of them all was Cahulian. Cahulian was so mean that he reached up, grabbed a thunderbolt out of the sky, smashed it down into a pancake so that it was big and round, and he carried it around in his pocket. So that when people wanted to know how mean he was, he said, that used to be a thunderbolt when I smashed it into a pancake. Then there was another giant, and his name was Finn McCool. And he was terribly afraid that Cahulian was coming after him. And one day he come home early from work to see his wife, the beautiful Una, also a giantess, and said, oh, Una, Cahulian's in the neighborhood. He wants to beat me up. What am I going to do? And she said, no, hold yourself. First off, I'll be talking with the fairies, and they'll give me a spell on which I can work. And so she did. And what she did next was she went down the hill to her neighbors, and she borrowed all their frying pans and all their grills. And then she made herself a lot of loaves of bread, into half of which she stuffed the grills and the frying pans. And then she got out some cheese and made herself some little white whetstone cheese and got herself some pebbles. And then she turned to Finn and she said, Finn, I want you to get into these baby clothes. He said, baby clothes? Me? He said, look, it'll save your life from Cahulian. He said, all right. And he put on the bonnet, and he put on the clothes, and he got into the crib. And sure enough, as soon as he was in the crib, Cahulian come knocking at the door. And Una went, nice, be to the door and said, Cahulian, so nice to see you. And what might I be doing for you today? And she said, is that big brute of a fool, your husband, Finn McCool, around? And she said, actually, no, I had to go run an errand. But if you'd like to come in and have some tea and bread, I'd be more than happy to serve it to you. And so he sat down, and Una gave him some tea and the bread with the frying pans in it. When he bit into it, and his front teeth fell out. And the baby started to cry, bread, bread! Well, she gave him some bread, and he ate it right down. Well, Cahulia, not to be outdone by an infant, said, give me another one of them loaves of bread. And he took it, and he stuffed it right in his mouth. And all the rest of the teeth on this side of his mouth fell out. And the baby took the loaf and ate it right down. Well, Cahulia didn't understand this, so one more time he said, give me that loaf of bread. When he took it, and he didn't notice that it was a bit heavier, but he put it in his mouth, and the bottom teeth fell out. When the baby, of course, followed by eating the loaf of bread right down, then the baby was playing with what looked like little bitty stones, until he picked one up like this, and he squeezed all the water out of it, and he ate it right down. Well, Cahulia, not to be outdone by an infant, picked up what he thought were little pieces of cheese, but they were the white stones that Una had gotten. He bit into them. The molars on this side of his mouth fell right out. Well, the baby ate down a few more of them. And finally, he bit into the stone one more time, and his teeth fell out over here. Had practically no teeth left at all, you know. And then the baby started to cry, and Una went over to comfort the child. And she said, Cahulia, would you like to be seeing that our child has just gotten new teeth? And he said, why, certainly. And he came over. Now, there's something you need to know about Cahulia. Cahulian's strength comes from his middle finger. And Una said to him, why don't you just be sliding your hand right inside the baby's mouth so you might feel the new teeth? Cahulian, fool that he was, followed right along and put his hand right inside the mouth. And as he did, Finn bit right down on the finger, his middle finger that provided him his strength, pulled it right off, and Cahulian shrieked, and he got smaller and smaller, and his strength went away from him. And Finn jumped out of the crib, and he jumped on top of him, and he beat him right up, and he chased him out the door. And from that day forward, Cahulian never bothered Finn McCool or his beautiful wife, Una, ever again. Matter of fact, he wasn't seen often in that neck of the neighborhood at all. And so it was that Finn McCool and his beautiful wife, Una, lived happily ever after. And that's the end of that story. Yes, please, feel free to applaud. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Larry Watson, producer of Once Upon a Storyteller. And today I'm joined with some friends who are going to help me make up a story. What is a good opening for a story?
Once upon a time.
There was a group of children who went to a television studio. And what did they do there?
Listen to stories.
And why did they listen to stories?
To learn more about the countries that the stories were from. And they also helped make the stories?
That is a wonderful story, but now we need to have some sort of ending.
And they lived happily ever after?
Good ending? And what did you want to say?
The end.
The end. Watch for Once Upon a Storyteller on this channel.
long ago, when we all still lived in our dreams, we all had wings, even the grown-ups. Well, what was probably better than having wings was that we lived near this fairy. And whenever we had trouble, we could take it to the fairy and she'd say, well, don't worry about it. No. You take that trouble out to my apple trees and you leave it there. And once we took all the trouble out there, we'd go back home and we'd feel like this. Much better. Do that with me, please. Big breath. Much better. Well, we could bring her trouble like the kind we have at school sometime. Ever been in trouble at school? Or trouble at home? Ever been in trouble at home? Or trouble with your brothers and sisters? Ever had trouble with your brothers and your sisters? All that trouble, we could package it up in cans and boxes and shopping carts and elephants and dinosaurs and rhinoceros and dump trucks. And we'd take it out to the apple trees. And how would we feel? Show me once more, please. Much better. Well, one day, the fairy woke up and she went outside to see what kind of a day it was going to be, to see if she was going to need her sweater or boots. And that's when she heard this funny sound. You do it, please. As she listened, it got a little bit louder. Please. It even got a little bit louder. Till the fairy figured out what that sound was. It was all of us, all flying to her at one time, and we were all saying, "We have trouble." Let me hear you.
We have trouble.
"Oh," said the fairy, "what's the trouble?" And we said, "It's the old man in the moon." Let me hear you.
It's the old man in the moon.
"Oh," said the fairy, "well, what about the old man in the moon?" And we said, "He won't stop saying why." Let me hear you. He won't
stop saying why.
"Ooh," said the fairy, "that does sound like trouble. But you know, you shouldn't worry about it. Everybody, take that trouble out to my apple trees and leave it there." And we did. All those bags and boxes and shopping carts and dinosaurs of trouble. And once we left all that trouble out there, you remember how we feel? Show me, please.
Much better.
Well, a little bit later, the fairy went out there to check on all that trouble. And that's when she saw that there was so much trouble out there, it practically covered up her tallest apple tree, which meant that the tree couldn't get any sun or any rain. What happens when trees can't get sun or rain? Tell me, everybody.
Die.
That's right, they die. Well, she loved those apple trees. She didn't want any of them to die. So, she knew she had to do something. First, she moved all that trouble away so the tree could be in the sunshine once more. And then the fairy flew up to the moon. And there on the moon, on the highest mountain of the moon, sat the old man everyone had been complaining about. He had a long beard, and he was sitting in a rocking chair. And he had a smile on his face, and it looked like this. Do that old man smile for me, will you? The old man smile. "Well," said the fairy, "I've come to see you about something very important." And the old man said, "Why?" What'd the old man say? A little bit louder. What'd he say?
Why?
"Well," said the fairy, "you're bothering everybody down below." And the old man said,
Why?
"Well," everybody's complaining because you won't stop saying why. And the old man said,
Why?
well, said the fairy, I don't know why you won't stop saying why. I'm just here to ask you to stop. And the old man said,
Why?
and the fairy said, I just told you because you're bothering everybody down below. And the old man said,
Why?
and the fairy said, because. And the old man said,
Why?
and the fairy said, because. And the old man said,
Why?
because.
Why?
Because.
Why?
Because if you don't stop saying the word why, I will do something that will make you stop. And the old man, with a big smile on his face, big smile, he said in a big voice,
Why?
the fairy didn't say anything after that. She just went right on over to where he was sitting, and she gave his chair a kick, and that made the old man fall off the chair. That made the old man fall off the mountain of the moon. That made the old man fall off the moon. Yes. And as the old man found himself falling off the moon, he began to find himself floating through space. And while he was floating through space, he began to change from an old man to a young man, to a boy, to a little boy, to a little tiny boy, until he became a... Oh, you are very smart. You can give yourselves a clap for helping to tell the story if you'd like. You did a good job. Now, you helped me tell a story once before. I'm going to ask you to help me tell this story too. This story comes from long ago and far away, in a forest where there lived a wise and kind lion. And there also lived a little rabbit. Now, this little rabbit was scared of just about everything. In fact, she got to be so frightened that it was hard for her to sleep at night. So she took to taking little naps throughout the day whenever she could. And one day, she found herself underneath the coconut trees. And she just began to close her eyes and just managed to finally get to sleep when the wind began to blow and knocked one of those coconut trees down so that it hit the ground very close to where the rabbit was sleeping. But when she heard that coconut hit, she woke up and she thought, oh, it sounds like the world is ending. The world is ending. That's it, the world is ending, the world is ending, the world is ending, the world is ending. And she went running through the forest, crying out, the world is ending. Well, old Rabbit stopped her and said, what are you saying? The world is ending, the world is ending, the world is ending. And off Rabbit went to hide. Well, old Rabbit went to all the other rabbits, all 10,000 of them, and he told them, the world is ending. And pretty soon, 10,000 rabbits were saying the exact same thing. Well, with 10,000 rabbits saying something like that, it was bound to come to the ears of the larger animals, and it did. First, the deer. The world is ending. Then the elephant. The world is ending. And then the buffalo. The world is ending. Until at last it came to the ears of the lion, who asked Buffalo, how do you know the world is ending? Well, Elephant told me. Lion went to Elephant and asked, how do you know the world is ending? Well, Deer told me. Lion went to Deer and asked, how do you know the world is ending? Well, all the rabbits are saying it. So Lion went to all the rabbits, all 10,000 of them, and he asked, how do you know the world is ending? That's when Old Rabbit said, Little Rabbit told me. Oh, Little Rabbit. Lion knew about Little Rabbit. He knew that whenever Little Rabbit was very frightened, Little Rabbit always went to hide in a particular cave. That's where Lion went. He called into the cave, Little Rabbit, come out. I can't. I'm too frightened. Why are you frightened? The world is ending. How do you know? I heard it when I was where the coconut trees grow. Well, come out, Little Rabbit. Come out. You're right on my shoulder. We'll go together to this place. You do not need to be frightened. Let us go and find out if this is true. So Little Rabbit came out. And she climbed onto the shoulder of the big lion, and they went to the coconut trees. And they looked all around. But all they could find was that one coconut. Oh, Little Rabbit, I believe this is what you heard when it fell from the tree. Oh, but Little Rabbit, this does not look like the world ending to me. Does it to you? No. Well, Little Rabbit, all the other animals are frightened. Don't you suppose we should go and tell them there's nothing to be frightened about? Yes. So Little Rabbit, scared Little Rabbit, went to all the other rabbits, all 10,000 of them, and she said, the world is not ending. And one by one, all the other animals began to say it too. Will you please say it with me 3 times? The world is not ending. The world is not ending. The world is not ending. Because for us who listen to and tell stories, we already know that the world is just beginning. Give yourselves a clap. You did a good job. Boys and girls, the first story that you heard is known as a fairy tale. And the second story that you heard is known as a folk tale. Fairy tale starts out as a written story. A folk tale comes from a story that's been spoken a long time. Can you guess the country that the second story is from? Where do you think lions live?
Jungle.
Jungle, all right. What kind of countries do you think that might be? Yes? Africa is a good guess. Anything else?
The forest where it's deep and it's very scary.
All right. Where else?
Australia.
Very good. The story that you heard today comes from India, and thank you for helping me tell it.